Hello, this is the second part of my chat on Cambridge, and I'm really just sitting here and talking like I'm sitting in an armchair, so it's nice laid back chat. These are the contents that I will be going through in this video, and I've already shown these contents in the previous video. This is just the second part to complete my series, and now let's get started. Now let's start with social life. Of course, it was very limited over the last year due to COVID. I mean, like, legally, you couldn't really gather more than 6 people for the majority of the year, and technically you're only allowed to socialize within your household, but university students, being university students, of course, there were a lot of people breaking the rules, and there's like illegal gatherings and a lot of stories of people being ported from different colleges, but let's not go into that. In general, like, all the clubs and societies were not able to meet in person, so it was disappointing. Everything was like mainly online. Restaurants and like pubs, bars were open in the first term, although subject to the 10 p.m. curfew, but they were like completely closed in the second and majority of the Easter term as well. All the sports were cancelled for like the majority of the year, really. So what legal socializing did occur? Well, you can legally socialize with your household, and most colleges did permit single visitors, at least for a while. When I saw friends outside of college, it was usually like a few people visited my room, or like we opted for like picnic or dining when dining was open, or takeaway and outside dining, or we grabbed coffee and had walks, and those are like the kind of really chill and healthy socializing. I think as someone who really enjoys walking, the upside of it is taking strolls with people allows you to like connect with them on a more individual one-to-one basis, or like one-to-two basis, because you wouldn't usually have that opportunity without restrictions, because people would be like meeting at society events, at clubs and like larger dinners or formals, and you wouldn't really get to connect with some people on a one-on-one basis, because if you had so much other activities available, you wouldn't really go, oh, let's go and grab coffee and go for a stroll, unless you're already really close with that person. But if you're not that close, I felt like COVID gave me the excuse to ask people individually or in really small groups out, and that helped us connect. And I hope this activity can actually like stay in people's minds and continue even after COVID, because it's just a brilliant activity. However, there's one thing I have to comment on social life, which is I feel like a lot of freshers would suffer from FOMO, which is short for fear of missing out, and I definitely plead guilty to that. It's kind of like upon first entering university, you join Facebook pages where literally you feel like hundreds of opportunities for either social events or societies are advertised on there, and you often like see other people on social media doing this and that, and you literally have the desire to like split yourself in half so you can be in like 2 places at the same time. I definitely did suffer from that. So what was my conclusion? How did I cope with it? For me, it kind of relieved itself in retrospect. So when I was suffering from it, I actually didn't really see a way out, but relieved itself in retrospect after I've done a bunch of socializing, and then like the initial frenzy died down, and you realize that the majority of the socializing you did would not really bear any mark on you as a person, or give you any really substantial long-term relationships with like 90% of the people you've met. It was just something that you enjoyed in the moment, and it was like a good experience, a good memory. But it's maybe like if you go to an event, you'll connect with like 1 to 2 people with longer term consequences maximum, and the rest, it just doesn't mean that much. Like, is whether you go to these events or not is unlikely to have a long-lasting impact on your university life. And so it really made me realize that I wasn't missing out on anything big by not being present in a lot of social events. And also regarding like opportunities in societies, in the beginning I felt like I would be missing out if I didn't try like everything that caught my interest and seemed like it was worth trying. But you really realize, because opportunities are so much out there, it is literally not realistic for any single human to try everything they wanted, or anything that it seems like they are able to try or they should try. There's just too many. And it was different from high school, because obviously the amount of societies you have is a lot more limited, so you seem more capable of exploring all of them, and you feel obliged to explore the majority of them. But it's like just different in university, and I think the sheer amount, the upside to it is it gives you so many viable options that it kind of turns the power towards you instead. Because think about it this way, you have so many options, so when you feel like, oh, maybe I should try that out, but I don't really think that I really like it a lot, then just let it pass. you don't have to suffer with the fear of what if I don't find something else I like more, or I don't find something else similar, because trust me, there will be a lot of like similar things that will suit you better. And if you miss out on this opportunity, there's still like a lot more waiting down the line for you, so don't worry about that. So now moving on to the impact of COVID. Yes, I've talked about the impact on social life a lot, but also let's talk about the impact on study and daily life. What I really didn't like was that supervisions and smaller classes for like almost the majority of the year, it was completely online. I've only had like 3 in-person supervisions throughout the year. That was really sad because I really enjoyed the in-person supervisions. Like the other day, I read this article on how when you interact with someone in real life, it's like every minute movement of your body language, or the pauses in your conversation, the shifts in your like facial expressions, or just really subtle inflections in your tone could all be taken into account in this communication, which makes it a lot more enjoyable and easy to navigate, and those are absent on Zoom, and that's why all the small class discussions and breakout rooms seem to be rather awkward. And the supervisions, like even though I was still able to learn, it just didn't feel like the same, and I didn't feel like I had an as enjoyable learning experience compared to when I'm able to see my supervisor face to face. So yeah, I did not like that. However, I did like the fact that we had lectures online because it really relieves you from like having to show up at the lecture hall 9 a.m. and you can watch, some lectures were streamed live, but some were recorded so you could watch them anytime you want, and you could play them again, and you could watch them at like double speed, or you could pause them and rewind, and there's so much flexibility. I really hope like even if lectures go in person, that they will still like do recordings of it. Another good thing was a lot of talks and like seminars and stuff, or like informative events, debates, a lot of the stuff they were moved online. So I like that because sometimes I'm kind of like sort of interested in the event, but not interested enough that I would go to the other side of the town to see it. But if it's online, like I basically sign up to a bunch of stuff and I kind of like tune in to listen, and I just pay full attention if I'm really interested, and if I'm not interested I could just like kind of leave it there. And I really like that part because I think if they weren't online, that would really decrease dramatically the amount of like talks, seminars, or career events that I went to. Now comes to the somewhat important topic of dealing with peer pressure. Yes, it is a matter of fact that Cambridge will give you immense peer pressure. Well, no, I don't think it's a Cambridge thing. I think it's a life thing. People just suffer from peer pressure in life. I think one encounters peer pressure in literally like all times and aspects of life. And maybe Cambridge heightens it a bit, but who knows? So there are always 2 sides of the coin to peer pressure. There are people whom you think are doing a lot better than you, and there are people on the other side who are probably like in your similar position, or you feel like, oh, they're even in a worse position than me. And I think this double-sidedness, or like multi-sidedness, is even more true in university because of the sheer diversity of people you're going to meet compared to a high school environment. So one thing that makes uni different from school is at school, most people seem to be striving for like the same goal, like the majority of people. They are working towards the same goal, which is called, I want to get in a good university. So the comparison between people is very direct because there's only so many things that universities measure when they admit people. So you guys are really comparing in the same list of things. It makes it much harder for you to see an alternative path out rather than competing with those people on the strictly defined few things. However, at university, there is a huge diversity of people and the goals they strive for. For example, some people might aspire to be an academic researcher, some an investment banker, other like an artist or a doctor, and also there are loads of people who have no idea what they want to do. You can literally be in 3rd year and still not precisely know what you want to do in the future. I've met people like that. They're fine. They're doing fine. They're honestly doing fine. And then you will see some people who are like very academically focused, some people who are more into finding interns or part-time jobs, and there are others who really devoted to doing like a lot of society committees. I think the existence of such diversity is a big factor that relieves me from peer pressure. Initially, I felt a lot of peer pressure from like this bubble of people who were really into like finance or consulting. A lot of my friends, they have agreed with me, and I don't know if it is an Oxbridge thing or it's just a university thing in the UK or whatever, but literally from myself, my own experience and the experience of a lot of my friends around me, they've agreed that given what is advertised in media, in societies, career fairs, it really seems like there's 2 career paths. you do finance or you do consulting, and everything else is like either, oh yeah, if you do med, you become a doctor, or if you do computer science, you do something related to that, and everyone else just seems unemployed. It's actually rather funny. Obviously, I am aware there are tons of other jobs out there, but I think they're getting so little attention, and this is problematic. It's problematic as a distribution of resources and as a way of shaping people's worldviews and as a way of giving the respect that every single job deserves. So given I was kind of in this bubble, I felt like I had to go towards one or the other, otherwise I'll be unemployed. What really worked for me in solution of this was to step back. Like, sure, there are a lot of people into those things, but there's also a significant amount of other people who are not. So I talked to those friends who have other aspirations, or some just don't have any clear plans, and some are similarly troubled by this culture towards finance and consulting as I am. What talking to these people and knowing their perspectives really helped me was an understanding that life can work itself in a variety of ways. It is not me that you have chosen the suboptimal path if you do not measure yourself by aspiring towards what the mainstream deems as the most successful. And another important thing to understand is that you are not being left behind when you see lots of people getting interns or having academic papers published in undergrad or getting committee positions in loads of societies. There is no such thing as being left behind in life. Some people become a millionaire at 20 and others become a millionaire at 50. And a 20-year-old millionaire may have missed out a lot of valuable life experiences that the 50-year-old millionaire would have had working as a poor youth in a restaurant, say. I had a friend who once told me, if you're literally going to spend the rest of your life working, like all the way until retirement, why are you so eager to enter the workforce? Or do things directed towards getting you into the workforce, because enjoy your time away from it while it lasts. So I guess what I really want to say is, don't be peer pressured into thinking you're being left behind or your life is not working out and everyone else's life is working out better than mine, because life works out for different people in different ways. And yeah, I hope my small talk has helped anyone who's struggling with peer pressure. It's definitely not something I'm completely immune to now. I don't think anyone can be immune to it completely, but I've definitely improved and I hope I can continue to improve. Now we move on to the very interesting topic of comparing colleges. So I understand that before you come into Cambridge, there is very limited information you have at your disposal to choose colleges, besides maybe like talking to a few people you know, going to open days, or just researching the website. Well, right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to list in the order of priority the factors I took into account when I chose Selwyn, and I will give a few tips on what factors you should consider, and some of them may not seem important to some people at first, and only after you get in here you realize they're important. Yes, so many of my friends have told me, why did I not consider this when I applied? And if I considered differently, I would have applied differently. So by order of priority, the main factors I consider: location, accommodation types, academic ranking, and the whole food. Okay, so let's start with location. I think it's most important. You know why Girton does not take education students? Because the education faculty is in Homerton. So if you study education and you go to Girton, you will have a miserable life. So that is why location is so important, because it dictates where you will be living. And this is especially correlated with where you'll be having your lectures. Also, don't just check the location of your college main site, because a lot of the smaller colleges, they have a lot of off-site accommodation that you will have to spend at least 1 or 2 years in. Check where they are, because you could have applied for a college in town and turned out where you'll actually be living at is like 2 kilometers away from your main site. Okay, so what are the benefits of different locations? Well, obviously, if you opt for a college in town, then it will make a lot of your daily life more convenient, but in return, your college is likely to be smaller. You might have to live off-site for at least a year, and you might have crazy drunkards under your window, or just suffer the entire weekend from the noise. And obviously, if it's more outside of town college, you get bigger grounds, more chill environment, atmosphere, and I think that is what I like about Selwyn. Oh yeah, I chose Selwyn because it's literally 5 minutes away from Sidgwick, which is where all of my lectures are at. Okay, why does accommodation type matter? Some colleges just tend to have better rooms as an overall standard compared to others. And for the majority of the time, the overall quality of the rooms is not really related to what price they are. So it's not like you're in this city called Cambridge and we have this kind of like uniform rental standards. I think rental standards by colleges really differ, so consider the types of rooms that you would like to live in and the price that you can accept. Personally, I don't think Selwyn accommodation is like the top notch out there out of all the colleges, but we are both average in the sense that we have a very consistent range of rooms, as in even if you end up on the wrong side of the ballot, you're not going to get an awful room, and some colleges do have not so great rooms in my opinion. But at Selwyn it's like you get pretty nice rooms or you get okay rooms, there's no bad rooms, so I really like this consistency. And the next point, academic performance, I think it's a lot harder to find information on. I know the Tompkins table can be a guide, but it's only very roughly indicative because it changes by year. Also, different colleges have a reputation for being good at different subjects, and yes, on the Cambridge website they say your college wouldn't really affect the teaching quality that you get. That is true because the bigger classes are just pretty random and lectures are uniform, but it does affect the quality of your supervisions. For example, for philosophy, it doesn't matter as much because our supervision is not really related to what college you're in, it's just whatever your director of studies gives you. But there's other subjects such as engineering, like almost all of their supervisions are conducted by supervisors of their college, so that is when it makes a difference. And even for subjects like philosophy, the difference lies in the fact that your DOS may have a different web of connections compared to the DOS of another college, and your supervisors tend to be those people whom your DOS customarily like exchange supervision students. So yeah, who your DOS is kind of does affect the supervisors that you tend to get, but it's really a hit and miss because you don't know until you come in like who they're likely to assign you. Personally, I really love my DOS and I've mainly had really good supervisors first year, so I'm happy about that. Okay, the other factor I really cared about was whole food. It sounds a bit funny and ridiculous, but it's just because I don't cook, and so when I eat, it's usually I cook simple stuff like a bit of noodles or sandwich, or I eat out, or I occasionally order delivery, or I eat whole food. So I think whole food is very important to me. It might not really be important to you if you cook. And I think Selwyn whole food in general is pretty good. Like we have a lot of options, and at least you will be able to find one or two options that you would either really enjoy or find that is okay. There hasn't really been anything that's like horrible, but I've seen food from other colleges and I do not want to eat them. I'm sorry. So yes, think about the whole food. About another factor that I would say you might want to consider and I didn't, and that was a bit of a regret, is the sort of bursaries your college provides. I didn't really look at this when I applied, and then I realized, oh, there are other like a lot richer colleges that provide a lot more bursaries and just opportunities for that. That was a tiny regret, but again, in retrospect, as an international student, I'm thinking like there wouldn't really be much bursaries that I would be eligible for unless like you're from a very financially disadvantaged background. So maybe it wasn't that much of an impact, but if you think you will be eligible for certain bursaries, definitely take that into consideration. Find a college that offers loads of them. Now we move to food recommendations, and this is like my favourite part. Because I'm Asian, I eat Asian food a lot more, so most of my recommendations are going to be from Asian food, but there's also a lot of other food because I really enjoy eating, and maybe that's why I took into account the whole food. So I've tried almost all of the Asian food in town, unless something looks so not edible that I didn't want to try. So that starts with a catalogue of what I'm going to talk about. It will go like this. So I'm going to start with Chinese food, Thai food, other Asian food, burgers and fast food, Italian, cafes, and other Western. So these are the categories. So firstly, starting with Chinese food, in general, well, the majority of them tastes pretty much the same. Some of the good ones for just general Chinese meals is China 72, 7 Days, Chinese Canteen, Gourmet House, Kangwoo, and Golden House. All the other ones before are kind of pretty similar standard Chinese meals. Golden House is different because it does mainly delivery and it's very much known for how cheap it is. Particular mentions that deviates from just a general Chinese cooked meal is 1+ from Rogamore, which is like food from a particular province. It's really good. You should try. Mr. Wang Hot Pot. also different and really good. Thai food. I have eaten the majority of the Thai, and in general, I think there isn't any that's really bad. I would recommend salathong. There's no dish that I had that is bad. Bang Thai, they also run a Thai food truck at the market. It's like under the same brand. I would especially recommend when you go to Bang Thai, try the crispy pork. You could order dishes with it, or you could just add it in whatever dish you want. It's so good. And the house authentic Thai cuisine. Other Asian food, let me mention two favorites in this category. Little Seoul, it's Korean food. It's so good. You have to try the tteokbokki, which is like the rice cakes, and the fried chicken. Steak and sushi, oh god, it's crazy expensive, but it's really good. It's like Asian and Western fusion. Ito ramen, it's really good. They have more stuff rather than ramen. It's not completely Japanese, it's mainly Japanese, but yes, they're really good. Tam Bing, that is Vietnamese. I personally didn't like the pho there that much. I actually liked some of the curries better, yeah. Burgers and fast food. Shake Shack is probably my favorite burger here. Other relatively good ones can include Butch Annie's, also Honest Burgers, and fast food. Try the Cambridge crepe. They give discounts to like more than half of the colleges. They're just so good. I like it a lot more than the crepe that's like further up north near St. John's, because I think at Cambridge crepes is a lot cheaper, and then like they wrap everything inside, which for the other crepe they don't, they leave stuff outside, which I am entirely confused why they do that, because I feel like you're meant to wrap it up and eat it. Also, there is a vegan wrap truck next to Cambridge crepe. I don't remember what its name is, and it doesn't show up all the time, but when it shows up, I beg you, try it. Like, a lot of people are put off by the fact that it's vegan if those of my friends are not vegan, but I've recommended it to all of my friends, and any of them who has tried it did not regret it. It's so good. Italian food, honestly, I feel like most Italian food tastes pretty similar. I like Franco Manca pizza. Prezzo and Zizi are okay. They taste pretty similar. And overall, I feel like I just prefer Domino's pizza to authentic Italian pizza. I'm sorry, this sounds so bad. Cafes, yes, this is another huge category of my recommendation here. I've explored a lot of cafes, and I will be highlighting those that I really like and explain what aspects of them really stand out. So I will be giving out different types of cafe awards. The best coffee goes to Bold Brothers. Definitely the best coffee in Cambridge, and I think almost everyone I know acknowledges that. The best food is Aromi. You have to try their focaccias. It's so good. Nice environment and doing well overall in food and coffee is Locker. Best toasted sandwich definitely goes to Espresso Lane. Another one with really nice toasties and equally good coffee is Indigo Cafe. Other Western food I would recommend is Galleria. It's so good. Like, all the dishes are so good. I can't really tell like what type of food it is, because it's like a weird fusion, and not really sure what country it qualifies as, and it's like you can book a seat by the river, so it's really cool. Galleria is so good. The Ivy, I've had both brunch and dinner there, and can I just say I actually prefer the brunch a lot. I think they outdo a lot of like brunch cafes. Their brunch is so good, and it's not a lot more expensive than brunch cafes either. The dinner is just okay, but brunch is really good. Yeah, I don't think there is a lot of proper Western restaurants I've tried. Maybe I'm just more into cafes overall. So here is a wrap on the second video of my Cambridge series. I hope that it was informative and helpful, and please let me know if you have any comments or questions.